So today we're taking a deep dive into the world of robots and AI. And not just any AI. We're talking about the kind of robots that'll be walking around with us, like actual physical AI. And we've got some really cool sources to dig into, an interview that's got some fascinating insights from NVIDIA, plus a really in-depth report on humanoid robots and the global race to, build them. It's going to be a wild ride, so buckle up.
Yeah, what really struck me is how both these sources point to the real problems that are kind of driving all this robot development. It's not just about building cool tech for the sake of it.
Right. Yeah. It's like the necessity is the mother of invention or something like that. The report actually points to these huge trends like declining birth rates and aging populations,
Yeah.
which are, leading to some pretty serious labor shortages.
And the shortages are everywhere. It's not just one industry. It's healthcare, it's manufacturing, logistics, like across the board. It's like the world needs an extra set of hands, and those hands might just be made of metal and powered by AI.
So that kind of makes me wonder, is this more about robots replacing jobs? Or are they filling roles that humans just aren't available for?
That is the big question, isn't it? I think the answer is probably a bit of both. It's not necessarily robots stealing jobs, but more like them stepping in where there's a void. And that void is only going to get bigger according to what we're seeing in these sources.
Okay, so we've talked about the why, now let's get into the who. The interview and the report both mention some major players in this whole robotic revolution, with NVIDIA and Tesla leading the charge. It's like a friendly rivalry, two very different approaches to the same goal.
Absolutely. On the one hand, you've got NVIDIA, the powerhouse when it comes to AI training and simulation. Their strategy really hinges on these world foundation models. It's a pretty mind-blowing concept, if you ask me. Think of it like ChatGPT, but for robots. Instead of languages, it's kind of these models, like NVIDIA's Cosmos platform, are trained to understand the physical world. You know how objects interact, the laws of physics, all of that.
So they're basically teaching robots how to navigate the real world before they even set foot in it. Yeah.
Exactly. NVIDIA uses their Omniverse platform, which is like this massive virtual reality sandbox, to train these robots. It's much faster, safer, and honestly cheaper to let a robot make mistakes and learn in a virtual world before you let them loose in a factory or your kitchen, right?
Makes sense. But then you've got Tesla taking a completely different approach.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has this grand vision for Optimus, which is a humanoid robot designed for industrial work, especially in manufacturing.
And Tesla's real advantage is their AI expertise from all their work on full self-driving technology. They're applying the lessons they've learned from teaching cars to navigate roads to teaching robots to navigate the world.
Yeah, which is a pretty solid foundation to build on considering all the real-world data Tesla has from their self-driving cars. It's like a gold mine for training robots.
Exactly. And that brings up an interesting question. Which approach do you think is more likely to succeed? Tesla's fully integrated system, where they build both the robot and the AI brain, or NVIDIA's focus on building the brains and letting other companies build the bodies?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's like comparing apples to oranges. They both have strengths and weaknesses. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
For sure, that's what makes this field so exciting. It's a wide open race with no clear winner in sight. It's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, so we've talked about the why and the who. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty, the how. How are these robots actually learning to do all these amazing things?
Well, the report highlights this really fascinating method called mimicry training. It's kind of like a virtual dance class for robots, where human operators use VR headsets and motion capture technology to teach them new skills. Imagine putting on a VR headset and showing a robot how to fold laundry or make a cup of coffee.
So it's like learning by watching. The human demonstrates the task and the robot observes and imitates.
Precisely. And what makes this method even more effective is that it can be combined with those virtual training environments we were talking about. Like NVIDIA's Omniverse, the robot can practice those newly learned movements in a safe, simulated world before trying them out in the real world. And it's amazing how fast these robots can learn new stuff using this method. And the cool thing is that as that training data grows, the robots get better and better at handling more complex tasks.
So it's not just about teaching them one specific thing. It's like giving them the knowledge to learn and adapt to like all sorts of situations.
Exactly. And both the NVIDIA interview and the report talk about how important those big data sets are in this whole process. The more data these robots are exposed to, the better they understand like all the little nuances of the real world.
It really is all about the data, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like the fuel for the whole AI engine.
totally. And speaking of the real world, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture beyond factories and labs. How will these robots impact our daily lives? And when can we actually expect to see them out in the wild, so to speak?
Yeah, that's what I'm really curious about. It's one thing to talk about robots in controlled environments, but it's totally different when they're walking down the street or helping you make dinner.
Right. Well, the report actually gives us a pretty interesting glimpse into the future. It suggests that by the late 2020s, we'll start seeing these humanoid robots in industrial settings like factories and warehouses.
Which makes sense given that those are places where robots are already being used.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a natural step from those big robotic arms to robots that can move around and interact with the world in a more human-like way.
Exactly. And then the report predicts that by the early 2030s, we'll start seeing humanoid robots in more everyday places like homes and businesses. Think robot assistants in shops and restaurants, or even helping out in healthcare facilities.
I can already picture it walking into a cafe and a robot takes your order and brings you your coffee. Or maybe you've got a robot helper at home who can help with chores or keep an elderly relative company.
Sounds like sci-fi, right? But according to this report, it's closer than we think. And the really mind-blowing prediction is that by the mid-2030s, we could have fully operational general-purpose humanoid robots. Robots that aren't just limited to specific tasks, but can actually understand complex instructions, solve problems, and learn new things on the fly.
Wow, that's just over a decade away. It's crazy to think that we could be living and working alongside robots that are that capable in such a short time. It's both exciting and, I have to admit, a little bit intimidating.
I agree. It's a future full of incredible possibilities, but also some serious questions that we need to think about carefully.
Speaking of questions, one thing that keeps coming to mind is the whole issue of jobs. As these robots become more capable, what happens to all the jobs that they could potentially take over?
That's a valid concern, and the report addresses it head-on. It acknowledges that there's a real possibility of job displacement as robots get more sophisticated, but it also offers a slightly different perspective on the issue.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the alternative take?
Well, the report compares it to other big technological shifts, like the invention of the car. When cars came along, they definitely replaced a lot of jobs in the horse-drawn carriage industry, but they also created tons of new jobs in manufacturing, transportation, and all kinds of related fields.
So it's not just about jobs going away, it's about jobs changing. And the report is saying the same thing could happen with humanoid robots.
Exactly. As certain jobs become automated, new industries and opportunities will pop up that we can't even imagine yet. But the key, according to the report, is to be adaptable, to embrace lifelong learning, and to develop the skills that will be in demand in this new robot-powered world.
Sounds like the future workforce will need to be pretty agile and quick on their feet to keep up with all these changes. But what kind of new jobs and industries are we talking about here? What skills will we need to thrive in this future?
That's the million-dollar question, and honestly, the report doesn't give us any easy answers. But it does say that skills like creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving are becoming more and more important. You know, those uniquely human abilities that robots, at least for now, can't replicate.
So it's not just about being tech-savvy. It's about having those higher-level thinking skills that will make us stand out in a world where robots can do a lot of the routine stuff.
Precisely. It's about finding those areas where human ingenuity and empathy are still essential. And those areas are going to be where the real opportunities are in the future.
Okay, well, job displacement is a real worry. It's not necessarily a doomsday scenario. There's potential for lots of new and exciting opportunities as long as we're ready to adapt and evolve alongside these advancements in technology.
Absolutely.
It sounds like we're at a turning point. We've got this incredible technology that could solve some of the world's biggest problems, but it also comes with some serious risks.
I agree. And in the end, it's up to us to decide how we want to shape this future. We can't just react. We have to be proactive, ask the tough questions, and demand answers.
we have to think about the kind of world we want for ourselves and for future generations. A world where robots are our partners, not our replacements. A world where technology is used for good, not for harm.
That's a vision worth working towards. And it's a vision we can achieve if we're smart, careful, and responsible with this technology.
Well, this has been a fascinating and a little bit scary look into the world of humanoid robots. It's clear that we're on the edge of a technological revolution that could change our world in huge ways, both good and bad.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, it's so important to stay informed, engaged, and work towards a future that benefits everyone.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep imagining the possibilities.